All right, magic number for the Phillies. Anybody know it?
42.
34.
You think it's good?
And after last night, all the naysayers found out why they brought in Duran the night he got hit on the leg.
Vic, do you feel like you're any closer to an answer at that second quarterback spot?
Not yet. I think all the guys are pretty even right now. And Ja'Cory just got here, got a full week last week. Need to give him a full opportunity with the other guys.
Are you disappointed at all that no one has just run away with that job?
Well, not really. I mean, they're close, Usually it does become pretty obvious to everybody as to who's going to win the job. That hadn't happened yet. I think they all have done a good job in and of their own way. Had good moments, not so good moments. So we haven't reached that conclusion yet.
With Drew, when he makes those kind of plays in a preseason environment,
Who does?
Drew
Yeah.
Makuba, how do you kind of weigh that? Is that an impressive performance to you, or how do you kind of weigh it?
Well, each and every play is its own entity. The interception was obviously a good play. Wasn't a great play on their part, but that's not our problem. It's when you have an opportunity to make a play, you got to catch it, and you got to run with it. So that was a good play. The fumble recovery obviously was, again, a botch on their part, but some guys have a knack to make you pay for those botches, and it's our ball instead of 2nd and 11.
You mentioned at the beginning of camp that we'd see Curtis Jean at outside cornerback. We have not seen that yet. Why is that?
I watched today's practice.
Is it coming?
He'll be out there a little bit.
Is he competition on the outside as well?
What's that?
Is Williams part of the competition?
He is. Yes, he is.
How is Gordon done as far as picking things up in these 2 weeks?
Good. I think it's been good. We purposely didn't, we could have played him in the first preseason game off of being here, just what it was, 2 days or 3 days max, but didn't want to put him out there not knowing totally what to do. And he'll get another good amount of reps this week.
Following up on Jeff's question, do you see a possibility where Cooper could play on the outside and someone else in the slot this season?
Not at this time.
When you look at a guy like Patrick Johnson made plays last preseason, this preseason, how do you evaluate him as an edge guy?
Yeah, Patrick was a guy that, we were disappointed to lose last year when we did. He's a reliable player that knows how to play, and we're glad to have him back. And, he does well when he gets his reps.
What have you liked about the way Matt Williams has played so far?
Mac had that injury which held him out of practice. I don't know the exact amount of days, but we'll call it a week maybe. And I think it's affected him, but hopefully he'll feel more healthy this week and we can see the true version of him. But because I think there's more there than we're seeing and getting right now, and I think it's probably more injury related and missing time related.
How is Jihad progressing, especially from that second level? That looked like a really good blitz. How do you see that him progressing?
Yeah, he's been getting better and better each and every week. Like I say, he still has his hiccups, but I do think he's getting better and better and better. And Bond's going to practice some today for the first time in a long time. And he'll get in there some with Bond. Trotter will also. So that will settle him down too a little bit, hopefully.
Follow up on Cooper DeJean. You say not.
Start over.
Not at this time with Cooper on the outside. What would it require to seriously consider him at full-time outside corner?
Someone to develop at the nickel position, and someone not to develop at the corner position. And we haven't seen Cooper play any corner either, other than NC2A ball. So there's a lot of unknowns there to be answered yet.
How do you feel Aziz is coming along?
He's coming. Yeah, I had a nice play the other day in the rush. He's coming.
When you
Brandon Johnson, what about the depth chart, I think?
Who?
Brandon Johnson.
Yeah, he got hurt in the game the other day, and you won't see him out here, I don't think, for a few days. So, kind of, but he had a good week of practice. Prior to getting hurt in the game, he got beat a couple times.
When it comes to deciding which linebacker will be next to Zach Bond, how much is it just the evaluation of that player, and how much of it do you factor in how they play next to Zach?
Well, it's how they play. Obviously, I think if they're playing next to Zach, it might make it easier for them. Some players, especially when you're a young player at ILB, safety, the same thing. If there's a veteran that can run the show and help you out a little bit, that helps.
Vic, you mentioned Byron Young at different points this camp. What have you seen from him Saturday in his first game action?
Yeah, I was, number one, pleased that he was able to take the amount of reps that he did, because he missed about a week or so of their camp too, and I think he's been getting better and better, and was pleased with his play overall.
We've seen a fair amount.
Did that performance in the preseason game, Vic, do enough to separate him in that competition, or how are you looking at that?
Not yet, no.
We've seen Jalen Hunt flip back and forth to each side a fair amount, especially in the last week or so. Nolan, for the most part, stays on that one side. What's the reasoning there?
Yeah, Nolan, tweaked his left shoulder a little bit, so we just played him extensively on the left, because your inside arm takes the brunt of the action. So we tried to take that off his left shoulder, and that was the only reason.
Are you expecting these competitions to go into the third preseason game, or do you want these next 3 days of practice?
They will probably go into that game.
When you talk about development at the slot corner spot, potentially moving Cooper, who are some people in that mix that you're trying to develop? Perry Nickerson?
Perry, Mac, Brandon. Those are the guys right now.
What do you like about Nickerson? He's a veteran.
Perry's a veteran guy, obviously. Hasn't played a lot of ball, even though he's a veteran. But when he seems to get his chances, he does pretty good. And we'll see. He'll get more reps this week also.
Thanks, Vic.
It was like 1,000 degrees last time we did this. Now it's nice and cool. We're in fall mode already. All right, guys.
John Mechie, looked like you have a pretty deep wide receiver room. What do you think he can add?
Yeah, I think anytime you can add a player like him to the room, just create more competition, it's great for the rest of the team. Howie does a really good job of just adding good players and adding depth and giving us more options to work with throughout the season, because you're going to need as many bodies as you can, and I think he does a really good job of bringing guys in that can add to the team, and we're excited to have him.
How familiar are you with him, and what stands out most about Mitchell?
So I remember watching him, coming out of college, doing a lot of work on him, and then just kind of from since he's been in the league, just his ability to play different positions. He can move around. He's done a good job. He's had some injuries early on, but worked through those, and he's looked pretty good so far this past year. So excited to see what he can do today, especially.
One of his strengths.
General time frame that you brought in Dodson last year. From that experience, that can help you develop him this year.
Yeah, I think really when you bring a guy in later in camp, right, they just have to be caught up to speed as fast as they can. But with us still having a couple weeks after this week, I think the timing's pretty good. Aaron Moorhead does a really good job. He's been with us the whole time. He knows the system, knows where we're going to go with things. And then he'll be familiar with like Devontae and some of the other guys to lean on. So I think from a standpoint of bringing a guy in, we're in a pretty good spot where he can still pick it up and feel confident in what he can do.
What do you think about his run blocking? And that's a big part of receiver play.
Yeah, so when we talk about run blocking, like the best thing that a guy can do is just give effort, right? And so he's going to be a maximum effort guy. We know that coming in. And then we got to do as coaches, put him in a spot to just not be in a bad position as far as schematically, with a certain body type, one-on-one. You want to always make sure you have certain guys in certain spots. So that's kind of up to us as coaches. But really, when you look at it, it's got to be effort. And, if the guy's going to give a good effort, we can get what we want out of him.
Kevin, Nick had talked post joint practices that the one thing that concerned with the offense was negative plays.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think led to that?
I think really when you do like the joint practices, it's funny because Schwartz and I talked before and after each practice, and we don't really know what he has in. He doesn't know what we have in. Like we got him on a couple things, then he got us on a couple things, and it was good to do that, to just really kind of not know schematically what they were going to do and what they were working on until after, and then we had the opportunity to kind of talk about it. So I think when you look at some of the negative plays like that, a lot of it has to do with just you don't really know what you're getting until you get it, and you're like, oh, okay. The same thing goes back and forth. Like I know in practice we hit a couple things on him that he missed, maybe wasn't expecting, but at least it was good for us to kind of go through and work through the process. And then you get good tape, right? So if there's something that he did to us that we're like, oh wow, that was new. We haven't seen that yet in camp. Now we can talk about it, work through it, detail it out, and then go walk through it afterwards. So it's good that those situations come up.
Hey, Kevin, when you bring in a new guy like this, you've had like Johnny, Anais,
Yep.
Gary's all working here for since the spring. Is there a message to those guys? All of a sudden, maybe a roster spot looks less attainable. What do you have to say to them to kind of not let them get affected by it?
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the business. Obviously, we all know that. But I think really when a guy comes in late like he did, like we have right now, this situation is those other guys need to understand, like, I got still another week to prove myself. I got to continue to work through this and do the best that I can. And then from there, the decision's up to, Howie and Nick and everybody upstairs. But I think ultimately, like, the guys understand it's all a competitive thing. And when you look at a back-end roster guy, you're not only competing for our roster, but you're competing for other rosters at all times. So I think it's important. And most guys start to understand that. And those guys, a lot of them are in year 2 and year 3. So I think they pretty much understand where they're at with that.
What do you think the tight end?
Oops, sorry.
Third tight end depth. What does it say that you guys were able to unload a guy and about the remaining guys, like Tylen and EJ probably?
Yeah, I think this year especially, we've had a lot of depth in that room and the receiver room, obviously. But in the tight end room, there's different body styles and types in there. And when you look at that room, they've done a good job. Jason Michael's a really good tight end coach. I've known him for a while, worked with him. He does a really good job of developing guys and getting them, up to speed with our offense. And I think we have a bunch of different guys in that room that can fill different voids. And some of those guys are good special teams players. So I think when you look at the versatility of what we had in that room allows us to do kind of what we did with that move. But not only that, we feel very confident and comfortable with the guys that are still here.
Last year, when you guys brought in Jahan Dotson,
Mm-hmm.
he was saying it kind of took him a little while to kind of get used to Jalen, get used to the
Yep.
offense. And obviously seeing that, are there things you can kind of take away from that to kind of help John Mechie's adjustment to the team?
I think the biggest thing is he has some relationships with guys on our team already. And so even yesterday, I walked through with him. Once he starts to know that, hey, this is how the offense is compared to what you were, he can start to understand like how the working order is of the verbiage and things like that going forward. And then he'll have some of the guys to lean on a little bit differently, like Devontae, like, hey, what do I really need to know? How's this work? And things like that. So I think there's a little bit of a difference from that standpoint. But I do think, to your point, there's an accelerated ramp-up version that you have to do for those guys, just to get them to practice today, for example. We have to do some things just to see what we have. So I think from him getting comfortable with the offense will take some time, but at least, he's got some guys that he can lean on to kind of get him through those little things that have happened for the last 4 years that he may not know about, but we can help him with.
With Will Shipley, he seems to have really developed running aspect, receiving aspect. Where is he in pass protection as far as being able to be that third down guy?
He's done a pretty good job. Pass protection is one of those unique things at the running back position where you got to get reps at it, right? So going against the Browns the other day was really good for him to see different blitz packages, unlike Vic. So he's seeing new things and getting exposed to that, because that's really what it comes down to, is just reps. You just got to see it full speed. We can walk through it, which we do, but like the full speed reps of seeing it, knowing how to do it, and what it feels like, because you're working with the O-line, right? You're working with those guys hand in hand on everything. So the communication and or fitting the blocks are super important. So the more he does it, I think the better and more comfortable he'll be with it.
How do you evaluate?
In past years, you had a better sense of those sixth and seventh O-line spots.
Mm-hmm.
Now, where's that coming along, and how are you trying to figure those spots out?
Yeah, I know we talked about this last week a little bit. Like Stout's such a good O-line coach. You know, there's no doubt he's going to get somebody ready to go, and I think it'll work itself out, and it'll continue to kind of sort itself through this week and going forward. So I think we're all confident in what we'll do going forward, and we'll have that guy.
How do you evaluate the quarterback play from Saturday's game?
So really, when you look at the quarterback play, like we had a couple negative plays that got us behind the sticks a little bit. So when that starts to happen, you're trying to play back on schedule, so it's difficult. Unfortunately, you know, as far as reps in practice, we try to get them as many as we can. But this past week was a heavy starters practice, right, against the Browns. So they had very few exposure reps against those guys. So in the game, it was a little bit different for them, probably than it was the first game, where they were more of a rhythm. They were taking reps leading into that first game against the Bengals. So I think it was a little different for them. Hopefully this week they can get a little more, you know, rhythm and going. But it's hard when you have those negative plays. It kind of can set you back a little bit and push you in a bad spot.
You're soft-pedaling AJ's return from the hamstring. When would you ideally want him back?
Say that again?
If JJ's return is being soft-pedaled because of status and being a veteran, when would you ideally want him back to prepare for the regular season?
I mean, he's doing a lot of stuff mentally to kind of, you know, stay obviously sharp and make sure he's good with his game and things like that. And really, it's up to him and the trainers. Whenever they're ready to cut him loose, I think they'll cut him loose. So I know he's staying active within us, you know, staying his mind in the playbook and everything with what we're doing. So I think whenever they feel like he's ready to go, we'll get him back.
Kevin, Darian Kennard's gotten some work at left guard. What stood out to you about the summer he's had?
He's done a good job, right? So he's had to bounce around. Last year, he's pretty much playing tackle. Now he's playing guard. And you want guys that are versatile. And with him being versatile, I think that just adds value. So continue to kind of move him around to see what else he can do is just going to add value.
Have you already begun game planning for week 1?
We've kind of done a little bit. It's difficult. How these weeks work for us are kind of like fast paced. Like the other day, we were literally working on 2 practices, a Jets preseason plan for the young guys, and then what we're doing the next week in between that kind of dead period before the Cowboys. So like there's 3 and 4 things happening. That day off that we had, there was a lot going on just for this week, you know, kind of a final install stuff, rep some things in practice today and tomorrow that we want to make sure we get full speed before we get into that game week. So there's a lot kind of going all at once, and we're trying to sort through it. But I think once we get through this week, right, it calms down. We kind of shift our focus, which will be nice, and get ready for the game.
In Tanner's case, what is it about his development that makes you comfortable and confident that he doesn't need the full preseason schedule?
I think he's gotten so many good reps, really, and even this past week against the Browns, it was so good to see him against different guys and different rush patterns and, you know, protection things he had to solve. I think that's been really valuable for him. And really, when you look at his whole body work, him getting to play last year in a full game was awesome, right? So that was the biggest exposure he could get to prepare and go against the Giants. That really helped him. And since then, he's just kind of continued to grow. I think him sitting for a year or so really helped his development as well, just kind of understand the pace and the speed of the game and the knowledge. And since then, you know, he keeps climbing, which is great. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
It's in Florida. They got Roger Bell's son's starting quarterback. Top order, he's going next. Roger Bell. 6 top quarterback. Plantation, Florida.
Not the best time. Mike was talking yesterday about how it's important for position coaches, not just to be good teachers and good coaches, but to work together. It seems like you have that on your staff. How do you get that? How do you build that? How important is that?
Yeah, again, if we want our players to connect, it starts with us as coaches of leading the way as far as, you know, leading by example. And we try to do that as coaches to promote that with our players. And so, yeah, so important too, that, what Walsh said, with him and, especially him, Clint, Bobby working in that front seven, working together, right? The group rush is one of the most important things that happen. When you see a quarterback break contain or things like that, it's, there's obviously different reasons for that, but sometimes it's not working in unison as a group. And so it's so important that those guys are on the same page. And I love the fact that Clint and Bobby and Walsh are all on the same page and have a good relationship. So it's just another verification of our culture, of what we want to, have here with the connection, with the togetherness.
What did you know about John Mechie before the trade? What do you think he can add to the team?
Yeah, obviously really liked him coming out, and with all our guys, having a bunch of Alabama guys on the roster, talking to those guys as you'd see an Alabama game when he came out of college, because obviously he made a lot of plays there. And so it was always a fan of his game, and then being able to watch him, he's quick. He's very quick. He's really the thing that really stood out to me is how tough he is. And just with how he blocks, just how he finishes on the sideline with the ball in his hands, you can just really see there's some similarities that you can tell they got coached by the same guys in college, because there's some similarities to how they finish with that ball in their hands to Devontae. And so, just always been a fan of his game and excited about the things that he can add to this football team.
How do you balance, being conservative with certain star players' workloads versus what happens after practice?
Yeah, everybody's on a individualized plan, but everybody, there is, make no mistake about it, to get ready to play in the season, you got to practice, or else your habits aren't going to be sharp. And so everybody, I wouldn't say, Jeff, that we just are conservative with them. If somebody's going through something and he's a second stringer or third stringer and he has something that he's dealing with, we'll be conservative with that guy as well. Because at this time, and that's obviously the same case with our guys that are starters. And so everybody, we look at that with everybody. But if they're ready to go, they're practice, right? Unless, something went on the day before, their workload was a little high, and then maybe we'll pull back a little bit. So everybody's is individualized, but, if they're ready to go, they're going to practice. And if they have something that's bothering them, that we feel like, our trainers and our doctors feel like they need limitations, we'll do that as well.
To that end, Nick, any concern with AJ and Devontae specifically that they won't be ready for week one?
Yeah, and we, again, don't have to get all into that information at this particular time. Bob will get you all the things for practice today. But, they're working really hard to get themselves ready to go.
You have one more day of camp left, but with it wrapping up, is there one thing that stands out to you about the last few weeks, either positive that you think the team improved on, or just something about this last month that stands out to you?
Yeah, you're always trying to improve, and you see we do different types of drills to help our guys improve in certain areas. And so, there's been a couple things, I guess my thought is, hey, we're still in camp right now, but I know there are certain things that are so important for game 1, game 2, game 3, the first month of that season, that we're working on a little bit even more as camp goes on. And so just want to continue to get better at those things, because we know how vital they are for opening games. And yes, we still have one more day of training camp here, a lighter day today. But then it's going to be the shift of the focus will be, hey, getting ready for this first game of the season.
On a personal level, what's it been like to see Kevin Patullo in this new role, and how have you seen him put a stamp on the offense?
Yeah, I think he's done. Like I've said before, I think he's just so hungry for this job that he's as you would expect from Kevin. He puts everything he has into it. Always here, working hard to do what he can do for our offense to get them in put them in positions to succeed. And like I said, he has great relationships with the players on this team. Where he can have a lot of good communication and dialogue with them. I just think he's done a really good job. The operation seems, whether we're doing operations out at practice or whether we're doing them at games or whether we're doing them at a joint practice or whether we're doing them at a practice in the stadium, that has been really good. And as expected, just because we've been together so long, of that communication of what's happening on different downs, different situations, and Kevin's done a really good job, and Parks has done a good job kind of taking Kevin's role to help Kevin out in that scenario. So I think he's done a really good job so far, and look for him to continue to do so.
On defense, you're going to have probably rookies either starting or contributing heavily again early in the season. You guys did that last year as a head coach. How do you with rookies in particular, prepare them for that? How do you equip them?
Practice, all the different things we do in practice, again, when you put guys out there, you trust those guys. You trust them to be in there in those situations, and that doesn't happen. Again, all your confidence of things grow in practice, whether that's my confidence in a play, if I'm deciding to go for it on fourth down, right? Am I confident in the players that we're throwing it to and the play that's being called? Well, it's the same thing with practice. When you put somebody out in the field, are you confident with those players and with the things that are being called to utilize those players?
I don't know. At the reserve tackle spot, do you have? Do you want to have a swing guy there?
I don't know if that's. Yeah, it doesn't have to be, Jeff, right? We'll play if the guy's better on the right, we'll play him on the right. If the guy's better on the left, we'll play him on the left. If the guy's better overall and he's a swing guy, I guess I've done that every single way that you can imagine in my time in the NFL, where sometimes you got a guy that just plays right, that's a backup. Sometimes you have one that just plays left, and sometimes you have a swing guy. And so I'm not concerned. I'm not concerned how that looks, as long as we're ready to go as far as having a guy in each position that we need to back up.
As far as staff development, have you considered giving position coaches more responsibility in these preseason games, whether it's defensive play, calling, game management, things like that?
No, and here's why, Zach. We're going through our process for us to be ready for a game. Obviously, I've seen that be done, and it works for some people, and that's fine. But everyone's mission is different during training camp. Everyone, in a lot of aspects, everyone's mission is the same, but everyone has different aspects of what they're doing. My job and what I want to do is to sharpen the tools of the things the coaches need to get ready for week one, just like we're doing for the players. And that's kind of an example thing too, right? We need that. First and foremost, we need that work to be able to go through and get ourselves ready to be sharp, because it's been a while since we've done that. But also, you just want to set that example that we're all trying to improve in things. I used to be around a place where it's like some of the young assistant position coaches would, hey, you go help out with defensive tackle this week instead of the defensive ends. And I still feel the same way about that as I do with this. You want them to continue to sharpen the tools of the things that they're going to be doing in the season, just like with the players.
Earlier on the rookies, to follow up about the rookies, how has Jahad Campbell specifically shown to you things that give you confidence in him?
Obviously, again, in practice, you see him make plays, you see him be able to defeat blocks, you see him. He really has great motor to the football, tough. Length, and so and just growing in the defense every day. Again, it's the daily things, but those are some particular traits that I've seen.
Going back to the pass rush drills, we see Connor Barwin as like the stand-in quarterback for those. I guess, what are some of the behind-the-scenes ways that he helps get the most out of practice? And is there something about those drills in particular that he does that we might not notice that it helps those guys?
Yeah. Obviously you see him in linebacker drills too, put the pads on, not the pads on, but the dummy on, so he gets a strike, right? So Bobby doesn't have to get that every single time. And he's big and strong, and so he can handle that. Well, it's the same thing there. He's able to, he's a good athlete. He's able to catch a snap sometimes when you don't have a good athlete back there. The guy drops the snap, then the ball's on the ground. And then they're working on, the defensive line is working on finishing. We talk about the ball so much. They're working on finishing with the strip attempt. And, Connor's got the pad on his arm. I guess I thought he was a little tougher than that, but no, that's for them to be able to simulate that. It's just, he's a good enough athlete to be able to get out of the way in those areas. But Connor, and why he's in those drills. But Connor's so valuable to our football team because, he's helping develop, helping us as coaches, helping Howie and his staff of helping develop guys. And that's your job as a coach is to constantly develop. And the more resources I have, and Howie has to be able to develop our team, those are welcomed.
What do you like about Cooper DeJean outside and cornerback? And what made you want to try him at this point in training?
Yeah, again, just his versatility. You want to be able to have versatility out there, and Coop has that. Coop, obviously he can do a lot of different things. He can punt return. He can play nickel at a high level. He's played corner at a high level. Just a really good football player, and you're testing things out in this time and working different things at this time always.
He's gotten first team reps, obviously by circumstance to a certain point, but as an undrafted kid, as a head coach, how does somebody like that catch your eye? Is it more consistent?
Yeah, you got it. Both. Yeah, it can't just be splash plays. It's got to be consistency. But the splash plays is what initially catches your eye. I've had a lot of free agents, make our football team in the past from all the way back. I'm just speaking of receiver, thinking of three guys that come to my mind. You have Zach Pascal, obviously he was here with us. You have Tyrell Williams from the Chargers and Dontrell Inman. And all those guys gave us a lot of quality reps. So you're always looking for guys that can contribute no matter how you acquired them. And, again, you're looking for consistency, but you also have to have the talent to be able to shine, to get in there. And, he's done a nice job so far.
Joe Douglas on the sideline with the headset, which is atypical for a front office person. What's his role in the game day operations?
Yeah, again, we don't need to. I'm not going to get into everybody's operations there. Joe's just a great resource for us to have, and he's awesome at his job, so we appreciate having him.